Well, hey folks, Real Honestly with John Redland, and 2019 is just around the corner, so let's talk about my choices for the 15 worst WWE matches of this year. Before I get going, though, I do want to say, once again, myself and the Derb will be doing an end-of-year show where we talk about what this year has meant to us and also talk about our indie wrestling experiences at Defy and Without a Cause, which has been a whole lot of fun and has opened up my eyes to a lot of great indie wrestling. And also, we're going to be doing a live Q&A/gaming stream shortly after that, so make sure to tune in. Probably take place around, noon or 1 p.m. West Coast time, so adjust your clocks accordingly. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. But back to this list. Originally wasn't going to do this, but people demanded it. They were like, no, we really want you to do this. We like hearing you rant about stuff. Also, mainly the reason I didn't want to do it is because I'd ranted a whole lot on Raw, SmackDown reviews, and pay-per-view reviews, and I was like, okay, I've ranted enough. Well, the demand's there, so I'm going to do this. There's been a lot of great wrestling in WWE, though. Raw has hit some pretty staggering lows. It's hit some pretty good highs with some stuff, like the Gauntlet match, and some of the women have done pretty well. SmackDown has done some, reasonably good shows. Some of the pay-per-views have hit some dizzying heights. Some of the Big Four have hit some incredible highs. Some have hit some shocking lows. There have been some shit pay-per-views that you're going to have in any calendar year. NXT takeovers have been really banger shows, some better than others. NXT TV has really picked up the weekly TV. 205 Live has been, rebranded and redone, and they're doing really well. And NXT UK is shining, especially the women's division. But can't ignore the fact there's been some shit, and whether it's creatively or whether it's just, not bad chemistry or whatever, here are the 15 worst matches, my choices for the 15 worst matches in WWE of 2018. Number 15, The Revival versus Gallows and Anderson at Raw 25. Not very good. This was the burial of the Revival because DX and the Balor Club and Scott Hall, so it was the Clique and all that. And why'd the Revival get buried here? Oh, right, they called themselves professional wrestlers, and then they were buried, and it was shit because they're the modern day Arn and Tully. And I mean, I hate doing that because they should be the first one of them and not compared to people in the past, but that's who they remind me of. They create their own styles and everything, and they're just great to watch. But now they're just starting to slightly get back to some kind of prominence after being buried pretty much the entire year. Either not being put on TV, or if they're put on TV, they get beat. Or if they win one match and they lose like the next 10. It's fucking baffling. And I love Dash and Dawson. I just want to see them do well. This was no way reflecting on Gallows and Anderson. I love Gallows and Anderson also, but this was a vanity project for DX and the Clique, and just to bury Gallows, not bury Gallows and Anderson, but use them to help bury Dash and Dawson, and it just wasn't very good. Then we go to number 14, Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman at Extreme Rules, and this was the one where Kevin Owens, took a huge fall off the steel cage, and it was really, really goddamn bad. It was scary. Thankfully, Owens was okay. Fortunately, he did that to take off, a couple months later because he needed double knee surgery. But boy, this was just brutal. And it was supposed to be like, oh, Kevin Owens is the heel and everything, and Braun's just beating him up. Eventually got to where Braun was beating him up, and I mean, I love Braun, but they were just making it where Braun's supposed to be the babyface, and he's just beating up Kevin Owens. No, this didn't really work for me, and it made Kevin Owens way more sympathetic. Even though people cheered and I cheered, I was still scared for Kevin Owens. And Braun Strowman didn't need this. He didn't need to do this stuff because he was already Mr. Monster in the Bank. And it was just not a very good... Extreme Rules was not a very good show. As you may know if you watched the list. Myself and the Derb talked about where we did our 10 favorite and 5 least favorite pay-per-views. But yeah, there we go with that. So yeah, Kevin Owens didn't deserve this, and Braun Strowman certainly didn't need to be booked constantly beaten up. I get that Kevin Owens is supposed to be a heel, but he should be a killer. He should be the kind of, he shouldn't be the kind that runs away from people. It just didn't work overall. Number 13, Nia versus Alexa. I had to include a Nia Jax match on here because Nia Jax is just, any goodwill she had, say back in, back around WrestleMania 34, that whole fat shaming thing that they did with her and Alexa, that all evaporated. Not that Nia wasn't a botch machine before, but my God, she was a botch machine from there on, and all that evaporated, especially with all the stupid shit she kept doing, like injuring Zelina and injuring Becky and injuring others and everything. But the Mania 34 match went on a bit too long anyway, because Nia should have just freaking squashed Alexa because it's size difference and all that, but also it would have been great to just see Alexa get squashed. And this also undid so much of what that angle was that by that point, Alexa was almost seen as Nia's equal when Alexa should have been knocked down a few pegs. Sure, Nia won and then cut this awful freaking promo afterwards. It was absolutely ridiculous about bullying and everything. It was bad, and Nia did not deserve this spot and should never have a chance to be Raw Women's Champion again, or if she ever goes to SmackDown, be SmackDown Women's Champion, or be Tag Team Champion, the Women's Tag Team Champions. She should never have an opportunity to title again. In fact, they should put her down the Performance Center or just keep her out of the goddamn ring for good because she's a freaking liability because she's goddamn awful. And hopefully Alexa can get back in the ring too. Number 12, Reigns versus Jinder at Money in the Bank. I'm going to be honest, this one was ranked originally a lot higher, but I thought about it. They tried to make the feud interesting. Reigns and Jinder did try, and once again, any match that I mention with Reigns on here is about Reigns the character, not Reigns the man himself. I hope the man himself recovers from leukemia, beats it 100%, gets back to 100%, whether he gets back in the ring or not. I want him to be healthy. The man's got a family, he's got a wife, and company will take care of him, but just more importantly, he can have a clean bill of health and watch his family and watch his children grow up and live with his wife if he can never get back in the ring. So I don't want to hear anybody say, oh, well, you dump on Reigns, you dump on Reigns. Reigns a character, not Reigns the wrestler. Always emphasize that. But yeah, the Reigns versus Jinder match was not very good. The feud overall was not very good. I mean, I was happy that Jinder cost Reigns a chance to be in the Money in the Bank match. And it wasn't very good. Because I felt kind of sick to myself because Jinder just isn't that good either. The Chicago crowd did not give it a chance. They booed the shit out of it. They crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. And it was actually pretty damn funny. Reigns won because of course he did. I mean, duh, what the hell else was going to happen? But yeah, it just was not a very good match. Number 11, oh look, it's Jinder again. Jeff Hardy versus Jinder. I believe it's for the U.S. title at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And this was the botch whisper in the wind thing that was absolutely abysmal. It is absolutely goddamn bad. Now, Jinder has never been the best in-ring worker. I'm not saying that Jinder doesn't try and he doesn't try to get better, but he was not good here. He was not good here at all, Jeff. The whole botch whisper in the wind thing, it was terrible. These two had no chemistry whatsoever. And Jeff winning was the right call. Thank God Jeff won because we didn't need Jinder to be a two-time U.S. champion. But yeah. This is generally pretty shit. I mean, it was pretty bad. Number 10, Zayn versus Lashley at Money in the Bank. Lashley's sisters. I love my sisters. And then Sami Zayn's going to expose the real Bobby Lashley. Gross. And then they bring out three guys that are dressed like women because offending the LGBT community just had to happen. I mean, look, I get for comedy. They've been having men dress up like women in wrestling since back in the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 60s. I mean, fuck, look at Gorgeous George, that kind of stuff. Look at him. He with the flamboyant character, this kind of stuff, that could have been seen as something offensive. I'm not saying it was anything like this. But the whole point is flamboyance and having fun and everything is part of wrestling. This wasn't fun. This was offensive. And Zayn didn't even want it. You could see it in Sami Zayn's eyes. Even though he was trying to make it work, he didn't care. He was offended. And of course Sami Zayn was offended. Anybody with a goddamn brain would have been offended by this. It was fucking rotten. Then Lashley comes out there and he beats up the guys that are dressed up like women. Because that's fun. And then we get to the match where Lashley basically eats through Sami Zayn and beats him. And it turns out that Sami Zayn actually needed, I believe, he had 2 torn rotator cuffs. So you got Sami Zayn with 2 torn rotator cuffs, and then a few months later he had Kevin Owens need double knee surgery, and they're both going to be coming back pretty soon. Great for them, but this was a bad use of Sami Zayn. Bad use of Bobby Lashley. They have killed Bobby Lashley's credibility. I'm not saying that Lashley should have ever been Universal Champion. They had one shot with him, and it didn't work. But yeah, it was pretty stinky. Money in the Bank actually had a couple matches, or a few matches, where you're like, this is kind of shit. Even though Money in the Bank did have at least one right winner. You could argue that maybe the women's winner didn't necessarily need it, even though it led to a pretty good cash-in. But that's another story for another day. Then we get to another match for Money in the Bank, and also one from Extreme Rules. It's a tie because it's Carmella versus Asuka. Because in the Money in the Bank one, you had Ellsworth show up dressed up like Asuka, and Asuka had to act like a goddamn goof and act shocked, like the Spider-Man meme, like she couldn't believe she was seeing herself, but it was Ellsworth. Nobody asked for Ellsworth to come back, but I knew he was going to come back. And then Extreme Rules, you had Ellsworth in a shark cage, and then he gets out of the shark cage, and he gets beat up, and then Asuka gets run into the cage stupidly. Carmella's title reign was a fucking flop. It was a fucking flop because she wasn't ready, and it wasn't going to do her any good. She beat Charlotte, she beat Asuka, and it became infuriating. I mean, nothing wrong with having a cowardly heel that cheats to win. That's actually the best part about wrestling. You could get that kind of heat. Carmella just wasn't good enough to do that. She just wasn't. It cooled off Asuka for a long goddamn time. Yeah, she finally won the title. Great. But there were so many people that didn't believe she was going to win the title, and now it's going to take till at least Mania for her to be seen as credible. I mean, I'm kind of debating whether they're going to have her lose at Mania, because if they have her lose at Mania, that could be another knock against her, but who knows what'll happen. But Carmella's title reign was a fucking flop. It was a fucking flop. People can disagree if they want. They can disagree in the comments, but both these matches were fucking terrible. They were fucking terrible because Asuka's better than this. Carmella even isn't terrible in the ring, but they were creatively booked badly. Fun fact, this feud actually caused a lot of heat with a lot of people. I actually got a lot of hate for what I was saying about Carmella in this feud. So, oh well, let's take that for what it's worth. Number 8, Kane versus Cena on Raw, Falls Count Anywhere match. And this was Cena building up this whole one-sided affair, trying to get a match with the Undertaker. Undertaker wasn't answering his challenges, so he beat up Kane in the Falls Count Anywhere match. It was absolutely pointless. It was pointless because nobody asked Kane to come back. I mean, he was already kind of back anyway because he had wrestled in that triple threat match with Braun and Brock for the Universal title at the Royal Rumble, but nobody asked him to be back. Nobody asked fucking Kane to be back. This was terrible. It was fucking terrible. Just 100% terrible. So, number 7, Braun versus Kevin Owens at SummerSlam. If Braun loses, then Kevin Owens gets his Money in the Bank briefcase. 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. Owens gets a chokeslam on the stage, gets squashed 1, 2, 3. Braun beating him didn't bother me. I actually wanted to see Braun keep the briefcase. At least until I found out what the hell they did with him afterwards. But Kevin Owens just getting fucking squashed here. I mean, now he's almost got to come back as a babyface, which is weird because Kevin Owens is so much better as a heel. Him and Zayn together, especially. But at this point, they almost have to make Kevin Owens a babyface because they be in the fucking powder this year, and it was really not very good. I mean, him getting his comeuppance is one thing, but Braun already, even though Owens technically won at Extreme Rules, he got tossed off a huge ladder through tables at Money in the Bank the month prior, then destroyed through an announcer's table at Extreme Rules, and then this. Kevin Owens is just beaten to shit. I mean, even though he was still over, my God. Then they undid a whole bunch of stuff with Braun, which leads us to number 6, Reigns versus Braun at Hell in a Cell. They did everything they could to disguise the fact that this was just a vanity project. Vince was determined to get Reigns more over. And again, this is on Reigns the character, not Reigns the man. Wasn't going to work. Nobody wanted to buy into it. It was nice that the Universal title was going to be on the show more often, but I want somebody else to win it, but that's another story for another day. I certainly didn't want Brock to win it. I'm more upset that Brock won the title again. And I'll get to that match here in a bit. But this match could have been something great. It was Braun handing his briefcase and saying, I'm going to cash in. This is my cash-in moment. And it should have been Braun beating Reigns here. It wasn't going to be. I knew Reigns was going to win or retain the title somehow. But then, in an earlier match, you had Rollins and Ambrose versus Dolph and Drew in a Raw tag title match, which was really damn good. In fact, that tag match actually made it onto my favorite matches of 2018 list. It was really damn good and a picture-perfect tag match with a great goddamn finish. This less so. This just wasn't very good. In fact, it was really shit. Like, it was slow, methodical, some weapon usage. It was what it was. The crowd wasn't giving it a chance. They wanted Braun to win. But then Brock's music hits. And by the way, before Brock's music hits, Dolph and Drew and Rollins and Ambrose come out and fight and everything and have their own little match where they're on top of the cell or they're on the floor. Just to distract from the fact that Braun and Reigns essentially had to take a nap in there. Owen Foley was a special guest referee. And then Brock comes down, rips the door off its hinges. He ripped the door off its hinges. Go call back to the Kane thing, even though that wasn't even nearly as impressive. He hits people with a bunch of tables, or broken pieces of tables, hits one F5 on each, and the match ends in a no goddamn contest. That was fucking shit. Absolute fucking shit. I fucking hate it. Absolutely fucking rotten. Number 5, Joe versus Reigns. So Joe versus Joe at Backlash. This couldn't have gone any worse if it tried. This just couldn't have. One, the crowd was already pissed. This shouldn't have been the main event, even though Samoa Joe deserved the main event. People were tired of seeing Roman Reigns in the main event. Whether he earned it or not, they were tired of seeing him in the main event. And it was fucking ridiculous. And I almost put the Brock versus Reigns match on here instead. Or Brock versus Reigns Universal title match at Crown Jewel. I almost put that on there. But I decided not to put that on there. Because that match was what it was, and I expected it to be kind of shit. But Joe versus Reigns was really, 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 really bad and boring. And the crowd just shit all over it. Chanting beat the traffic. There was no saving Backlash. Backlash after that great opening match between Miz and Rollins, it was all downhill from there. Joe seemed to kind of be embracing it. Samoa Joe, that is. Not Joe Anoa'i. But yeah, this was a terrible, terrible match. It just really was. And now we get to, I was going to mention Braun versus Brock at Crown Jewel because it was a terrible match. But nope, I'm going to mention Reigns versus Brock at WrestleMania 34. In a match that was okay, but Roman should have won the title here. As much as I would have hated, as much as I would have hated to see Reigns get anointed again, at least we would have maybe gotten somewhere with it, because we did need to extend the Braun versus Roman, or the Brock versus Roman feud, rather, out too much longer. We could have gone with Braun versus Roman, and it would have maybe been more interesting, since they had a hell of a feud in 2017. But nope, Brock retains, cracking Reigns' head open, and the crowd was not giving it a chance at all. I didn't want to see it main event. It was going to. I knew it was going to. But yeah, they should have actually had Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie main event the damn thing. Because I hate to say it, but that match probably actually would have gotten a bigger pop. Maybe it just had to do with the fact that the crowd was tired, they were upset, it was what it was, and Brock versus Reigns was terrible. It was just terrible, and for a Mania main event, it was not nearly what their Mania 31 match was, and I didn't even care for that one. I didn't think that one was all that good. But it was what it was. It just ended up with Brock retaining, and we're all shocked. I mean, while I was sort of happy because I didn't want to see Reigns win the title, I was like, also, shit, I mean, we're not going to see the title again. And we didn't see it again until SummerSlam. It was fucking stupid. Well, actually, we saw it at Greatest Royal Rumble. That doesn't count, because the Saudi Arabia shows don't count except when I talk about a couple things here. But we're going to talk about number 3, Shane versus Dolph at Crown Jewel, the World Cup Finals. Shane McMahon is the best wrestler in the world. The best professional wrestler in the world. I'm sick to my stomach hearing that and saying it. This is nothing against Shane, but it was dumb. It was goddamn stupid, because this could have been the catalyst for a Shane heel turn. Why not? All the other McMahons are basically heels. Why not fucking do it? And the whole McMahon thing, new era. This is going to be a new era, so we're not going to see any more matches like this next year. We're going to see more matches like this next year. It may not be a new era. We'll see. But yeah, Shane McMahon beat Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler, who fought admirably and beat, I believe it was Angle and Rollins to get there. And then was supposed to face Miz. But Miz got injured, and Shane took his place. And Shane and Jeans beat Dolph Ziggler. And I'm sorry, I'm having to catch my breath here because this was really fucking stupid. Shane McMahon won, and he's the best professional wrestler in the goddamn world. What the fuck? This was God, this was abysmal. Crown Jewel actually, if it had ended after 8 matches, may have not been that bad of a show, but generally Crown Jewel was pretty shit. But now we get to 2 matches I've talked about before, so I'm probably going to make it brief. But Triple H versus The Undertaker at Super Showdown. Didn't want to see this. I watched it because I was like, you know what? I watch everything, and what the hell, Super Showdown may not be a bad show. Until the main event actually wasn't that bad of a show. 27 to 28 pissing minutes of ring action, not including the entrances. And it was slow and bad, and Shawn Michaels was out there. Kane was out there. Because we all knew it was going to lead to a tag match, Crown Jewel. We didn't want to see Shawn Michaels get back in the ring, or at least I didn't. And vast majority of people didn't seem to want to see it. But Triple H and Undertaker doing this match, which I didn't expect them to go a mile a minute. I mean, hell, their Mania 27 match was really slow, and their Mania 28 match was slow. But the Mania 28 match had some pretty good drama to it. Their best Mania match was at Mania 17. You can fight me on that if you want. That's what I will say, and I will think that until I die. But Triple H and Undertaker did not need to face off in the ring in 2018. I didn't want to see this. I did not want to see. It was just so stupid. It was just so fucking stupid. And Shawn Michaels interferes. After getting tossed around a bit, but Shawn Michaels interferes. Kane interferes. But yeah, Shawn and Taker end up doing a super kick pedigree combo, and Triple H ends up winning the match, and then we get this tag match afterwards, in the next show, because Taker and Kane are holding Triple H and Shawn Michaels' arms, and then beat him up and this kind of stuff, and it just was what it was. Because then we get to the worst match of the year, the DX versus the Brothers of Destruction at Crown Jewel, and this was worse than the Triple H Taker match because it was Shawn Michaels' comeback match, and this was it. Kane lost his mask and hair because it got just ripped off his head. He couldn't get it wasn't attached to his head well enough or something like that during this one bad spot. Shawn brained himself going outside, I think busting open his nose and possibly giving himself a concussion. Yeah, he had ring rust. You were going to expect that since he hadn't wrestled in about 8.5 goddamn years, but it was so shit. It was so fucking shit. Why in the world did Shawn come back for this? I mean, besides money. And I don't blame him. It's his career, it's his life. He can do what the fuck he wants. Nobody wanted to see this goddamn match. It was a fucking abortion. It just was. It was a goddamn abortion. So that's all I gotta say. So that's the end of this list. 15 matches covered in about 22 minutes. But what are some of your worst matches in WWE, NXT, or whatever in 2018? Let me know. If there are some matches you didn't like in New Japan, please let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Riplin. I will see you soon.